It's 5:46. This is Greatest Hits Radio. In need of refreshment ahead of the confession, Susie's picking something rather fine, I think, from the trolley. What have we gone for today?
Well, considering the weather outside, I've gone for something nice and warming.
Hot soup?
Like a ginger tea.
Ginger tea, very good. Excellent. You could...
oh, Matt.
Excellent. What's wrong with that?
That
sounds great. Yeah.
Tasty.
Gin and tonic, Matt?
Tasty.
Oh, gin and tonic. Lovely.
Okay, very good.
Great idea. I love that.
Today's confession came when Susie sent them over. This one, she'd written at the top, I don't think so.
Yeah.
This is going to have to be for the podcast.
Really?
So things have been removed.
Right. Okay. It's been cleaned up. Good.
It's been cleaned up.
Yep.
It still has a 12, 12, I think, kind of certificate. Anyway, it comes from Jane. Jane says, Simon, Matt, Holly, Susie and the Drive Time team, I definitely do not want my real name used, as my husband was embarrassed enough at the time, and if this story came out with my real name, he would never leave the house again. Therefore, I'll call myself Jane.
Jane.
This story starts when my family and my sister's family went on a lodge holiday in Lincolnshire in 2017. While we were there, my sister and I decided to book a hack at some nearby stables. A hack is basically a ride outside of the equestrian centre around fields, roads, woods and so on. For anyone who doesn't know, these are Matt's people, the horsey people.
Horsey.
So Matt knows all about this.
Yeah.
We had brought all our riding gear with us on holiday in preparation. My sister is a very experienced rider. But I had only started... Sorry.
You've lost me. Right, she's an experienced rider, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I'd only started horse riding again.
Why? This makes no sense.
I haven't got there yet.
No, I know. It's coming up.
About 7 years previously, I'm out of practice.
Yeah.
I'd ridden as a child until I'd had a bad fall after a horse bolted when I was 10 years old. It had scared me, but I escaped with bruises. I was still slightly scared of horses, but enjoyed it nevertheless. I hadn't been again for a few years at this point, though I was very excited, but also slightly nervous. The day came and we arrived at the stables ready to meet our assigned horses. The lady who ran the stables wasn't the warmest person ever, took us to our horses. My horse was a fair size, big enough that I had to stand on a few steps to get on him. The saddle was beautiful, not the normal leather ones. This one was suede and looked like new.
Nice.
I thought to myself that it must have been very expensive. Anyway, off me and Sis went with one of the staff into the training ring, initially to have a little warm-up and practice, which wasn't too bad, but it was decided that although we had a canter in the ring, we wouldn't gallop at any point, as I was too nervous. It suited me. We then set out on the training ring and started heading off across fields.
You obviously know what's coming up. I have no idea what's coming up.
Good. First was the guy on his horse, then my sister, and then me. It was a beautiful day, and the scenery was perfect. I was sitting astride my horse, feeling like Calamity Jane. The name was apt due to what happened next. I will at this point explain to anyone who isn't familiar with postnatal ladies' flooring.
Oh, right. That's where we are, is it? Okay. That's when the suede comes into its own.
Not a sentence I've ever said before. If you haven't had a baby out of the sunroof, you are given exercises to tighten things downstairs. Obviously, the pelvic floor becomes less firm the more babies you have, and I was 4 down. I was also in my 50s. Anyway, the lad leading us all of a sudden said, let's trot for a while. So we kicked our horses on. The sudden lurching forward caused things to unfold that I wish hadn't unfolded.
Okay. Yeah.
My sister jumped down, but I didn't. I was mortified. She asked me if I was getting off, and I told her I couldn't. There was no getting away from it. I was going to have to own up to the owner. And I came out and I told her precisely what had happened. She pursed her lips and said, that saddle belongs to one of the ladies who bought her horse here. I apologized again, and my sister and I quickly went to her car, leaving the centre's owner to deal with the saddle. We drove back to the lodge in hysterical laughter most of the way back, and I've got to admit, I am also laughing at this point. We arrived back at the lodge and explained to my husband what had happened, and he clearly wished he hadn't bought me an anniversary card the day before. So there you have it. I don't want to apologise to the haughty stable owner, who shouldn't have been using a customer's saddle anyway, but I would like to apologise to the woman whose saddle it was, and the poor horse who hopefully came out of it unscathed. Hopefully you can find it in your hearts to forgive me, as I did apologise, and when you got to go, you got to go, especially if you've got no control. If only you had some ads on Greatest Hits Radio, which for women like me. From here on, no trampolines and no horse riding. Well, we've learned something every day, and this is an interesting tale from Jane, not her real name. I got through it in the end.
You did?
You did. Well done.
What do you say, Sister Susan, to Jane?
Oh, well, Jane, I think, it's a tricky situation, isn't it? I don't know. Would you have gone horse riding had you been questioning your bodily functions? I don't know. But you probably did. She said she was 4 children deep, and that has effects. And I think, whether you've had a child out of the sunroof or not, whether you've had a baby or not, you should do your exercises, and maybe that's what we've all learned here. But I do feel like the stable owner shouldn't have been using that saddle, because it wasn't hers to lend out, and it was suede. That's never going to be the same again. No one needs a suede
saddle, do they?
I don't know. Maybe it sounds quite posh, doesn't it? But I think she's thoroughly embarrassed enough, and she gets my forgiveness, because I think I would have sat on that horse for a bit longer and not moved if that was me. So she did well.
There was more detail to be provided.
Really was.
I took that out, Brother Matthew.
Okay, so I'm going to forgive because obviously, I mean, the design flaw in making a saddle out of suede, because that's not supposed to get wet, and it's going outside even without the unflooring or whatever unfolding, so even without that, it was going to get wet. So maybe it's down to the saddle people. Yeah, maybe take that on board. And also the woman. Yeah, she wasn't very nice. And the husband with the card. Great stuff. So for all those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
Okay. People's verdict, please. Do you forgive Jane? Yes or no? 61054 on the text. First word is Simon. Before the news, we had a nice little confession from Jane. And it was a horse riding confession, which involved a suede saddle and the problems of postnatal ladies flooring.
Yes.
And that's all you need to know. The verdicts are in. Here we go.
Linda in Wakefield says, I have to forgive this one. As a fellow mum, I feel so sorry for her, and I totally sympathise with her experience. I'm glad she saw the funny side at the end. Bev in Mitcham says, forgiven. Oh, bless her. She didn't know it was going to end so badly. And who has a suede saddle anyway?
Correct.
And finally, forgiven. I only have one child, but I'm of an age where I suffer from the same problem. It's even worse for my wife, says Jim.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for all the verdicts, and thank you for the confessions. Keep sending them in, please. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Anyway, let's just get some refreshment, because I think Sister Susie has lined up something rather fabulous. What do we have today?
Well, earlier I had a tequila sunrise, but have you had a tequila sunset?
I've never had any tequila ever in my life.
Well, a tequila sunset uses grapefruit juice and a blackberry instead of a grenadine or a blackberry brandy for a darker colour. So it's slightly darker because it's nighttime, because it's a sunset. So
okay,
there
that's very nice. I love grapefruit juice, but it doesn't work with statins, so you just have to be very careful with that.
It doesn't.
You can keep with the orange juice, though.
Okay, consult your GP rather than take any medical moves based on what a radio presenter says. Today's confession comes from Well-Intentioned Dad.
Right.
That's how it's signed. Well-Intentioned Dad. Father Simon, the ever cordial congregation, I write to you to seek forgiveness for a past transgression. I've always been in awe of anyone who can play a musical instrument. Watching someone hammer out a concerto on a piano or seeing a full orchestra reaching its tremendous climax sets the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Unfortunately, I am not blessed with such musical talent and grew up with parents who also didn't indulge in any of that kind of foppery. Their words, not mine. I did try to learn a musical instrument when I was younger, but I didn't want to learn the same old instruments as my peers, such as the boring guitar or the boring keyboards. Now I settled on the cello, which I had to carry to and from school twice a week in a case that I could have comfortably got into myself. I relate to this because I too was told to learn the cello.
Right.
The fast thing you had to carry on the bus.
In a magic case.
Yeah.
We did you learn the cello?
Did I? No, I didn't.
Oh, that would have been too.
not
That would have been too.
amazing. Yeah.
As the cello was so big and heavy, I often dropped it. And one time I broke the bridge and snapped a couple of strings. My father, a chimney sweep by trade, who had as much instrumental knowledge as a spider knows about the FTSE 100, tried to fix it so that when I went for my next lesson, I had to explain to my tutor that this string now plays this note and this one now does that.
Yes.
Safe to say I lost interest after that, and my dreams of being a well-rounded cellist disappeared. Fast forward 35 years, and imagine my joy when my then 8-year-old daughter told me that she would like to play the cornet and join a local brass band. Her teacher was part of the band and was offering taster sessions. She joined up and spent many Thursday evenings practicing with her bandmates and subsequently moving through the colour banding of proficiency. When it came to around Christmas time, we were invited to watch the band perform a selection of Christmas favourites. Of course, we were going to watch her, so we bought our tickets as well as a smart outfit for my daughter. If you've ever watched a small local brass band, you'll recognise that it is black trousers, crisp white shirts, and optional massive glasses. If you're an older woman with a huge brown ponytail, they always seem to be there. I've never quite worked out why. Have you noticed that?
No, I noticed the trousers.
We took our seats, and there we were, having a good time, and there was my beaming daughter with the rest of her group. I had visions of watching her play in the London Philharmonic in the future, and I could not wait. The conductor said his introduction and then turned to begin. My daughter put the cornet to her lips and began to play. And this is what I'm asking for forgiveness for. You see, the noise that came out of her instrument was the loudest untuned bellow I have ever heard.
Oh dear.
And it repeated again and again and again. It was supposed to be Jingle Bells. However, it was just one continuous note.
Oh, no.
Over and over, again and again. And so I'm afraid to say it began. The giggles. I just could not help it. I tried so hard, but every note made me laugh more and more. My father, as I mentioned earlier, was sat next to me, and without lifting my head, I could see that his shoulders were going up and down at quite a pace, so I deduced that he was having the same issue. My wife caught my eye and she gave me that "will you put yourself together" death stare. But I could not help it. The noise was so funny, and the fact that everyone else was watching with adoring eyes made it even worse. After what felt like half an hour, but I think it probably lasted 45 seconds, they finished to rapturous applause. She smiled, bowed her head and looked at me. She had a puzzled look on her face. When she joined us following the show, she asked me in her sweet little girl voice, "What were you laughing at, Daddy?" And I had to lie and say the pensioner in front of us had broken wind. And myself and Grandad were just being childish. We endured many performances over the years, and I'm sad to say it never seemed to get any better. But I still found it hilarious nonetheless. She played for a few years, but alas, as she grew older and discovered boys, the dulcet tones of the cornet have all but faded into memory. So I ask for forgiveness for my beautiful, loving daughter for laughing at her best efforts, as it appears I am as cultured as a wooden spoon. Thank you. From well-intentioned Dad. And the pensioner had never broken wind at all. That was a lie I told to my children. So let's check in with Sister Suze for what her verdict is on today's cornet-based confession. Go ahead.
Well, I do like lies to children, but I think this is a bit too mean because it's right in front of her face, and I think I kind of agree with the wife of well-intentioned Dad and say, pull yourself together. You just, on that poor pensioner, you know, your daughter might have gone on talking about that pensioner that was in front of you for something they didn't do, and that's a bit mean. But I think that as funny as it might have been, she was trying her best, and you should have put your best dad face on, and you should have said, well done. And Grandad. So I am not going to forgive.
Brother Matthew.
I'm going to forgive. I can't be alone in wondering, why wasn't she practicing before she had this public recital? I mean, clearly, why wasn't the music teacher saying, no, all you're doing there is just making a long monotone. It's supposed to be happy birthday, and all you're getting is just a big, long raspberry coming from your cornet. So it's maybe the music teacher's fault or the daughter's fault.
She went on to rehearsals on Thursday evenings.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. Should have been going to more of
Practicing.
them, really, and practicing more. Quite right. Good point there, Suze. So I think I'm going to forgive, and also probably was the pensioner as well. Let's not rule that out. So yes, all forgiven all round.
So the pensioner had broken.
I think probably
Even though he
yes,
had to
covered
have
up by the cornet with the thing.
With the noise.
Yes, yeah, with the noise. Well
Okay,
done, Suze.
making as much
Good
sense
point.
as normal.
Yeah.
The people's verdict, please. 61054. Do you forgive well-intentioned dad? Yes or no? 61054. First word is Simon. Thank you. Just before the news, today's confession came from Well-Intentioned Dad, a story about his 8-year-old daughter, a local brass band, and her attempts to play the cornet. It was supposed to be jingle bells. It was just one loud, untuned bellow. He got the giggles, so did his dad, and they blamed it on the pensioner breaking wind in front of them. The verdict is in. Here it comes.
Well, not forgiven, says Johnny in Cardiff. I feel sorry for the poor pensioner who got the blame for something they didn't even do. And Michaela in Epsom, not forgiven, laughing at your daughter's performance is so mean. I'm sure she was really trying her best with her cornet playing, and he sat there laughing. But Jez in Kent says, I have to forgive. I endured the same at my daughter's primary school. When the junior band started, it was like a bag of spanners being dropped. The number of women suddenly searching for tissues deep in their handbags was unbelievable. I still laugh when I think of it.
Thank you for the verdicts. Thank you for the confessions. Sent yours to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.